What's up, friends? Just wanted to hit you guys up today with a story, something that happened to me yesterday that I think I hope will land on you in a similar way that it landed on me yesterday when it happened to me. It was a very powerful thing that I thought was going to end tragically, that ended up being a very beautiful, beautiful thing. So my day usually begins, well, I'm up before this, but the first task of the day is taking my daughter to school around 7:50, and it's 2-3 minutes away from the house, so I head that way, drop her off, come back. My kids are usually up by then, and I hang out with them for a few minutes before I head off to a coffee shop to work for the day or my first meetings or whatever. This day was a little different. As we headed to school, we came upon an accident about a block from the school, our normal route to school. It wasn't anything terrible, but 2 people were involved, and everybody looked fine, so I went around them and went to school to drop her off. On the way back, I stopped to see if I could help in any way. It was 2 women involved, two different vehicles driven by women, and I always try to stop, especially if there's women. Not that women can't take care of themselves, but I just always try to stop and help out if I can. So I got out. I noticed right away that one of the ladies could not speak English at all, only Spanish. Luckily, I can speak Spanish mostly fluently at this point. I've lost some of it over the years. But so I started speaking with her. Her daughter, who was about 13 or 14, could speak English for the most part. And so I was talking with her, talking with the mom. The other lady, a Caucasian woman, was at fault. She pulled out too early and they hit each other. Again, it wasn't too bad. But the daughter looked really distraught. That's what struck me. I asked her if she was hurt. She said, no, she's fine. And she was crying. She was crying pretty hysterically. And so I asked her, what's the matter? What can I do to help? And she said, my mom doesn't have her license or insurance on the vehicle. And so I kind of gave her a look like, yeah, that could be a problem, because the other woman, per protocol, when you have an accident, she already had called the cops to come in so they could do a report and everything for insurance. And the daughter looked so scared that the police were coming. And so I kept talking with both parties, just kind of trying to be there as a help, trying to translate between the 2 parties involved. A few minutes later, the cops had still not shown up, and so I asked the daughter, I had this thought, and I didn't know how to ask it because I didn't want it to come out poorly, but I ended up just asking her, like, is she an undocumented immigrant? Does she have papers to be here? And the daughter told me no, she doesn't, which is the case with a lot of undocumented immigrants. And here, obviously, if she's undocumented, she doesn't have papers. But here in Nashville, there are a lot of arrests. There are a lot of people that fear. They're walking on eggshells all the time when they go out, and most of them are trying really hard to get their papers. They're not trying to be here illegally. If you study, if you know where to look and who to talk to, you'll know that they want to become citizens here, and the process is not easy at all. But back to the story. So that made me worry even more, because we're in the Southeast, we're in the South, a cop is coming. I just had this nightmare that ICE was going to get called and they were going to take this lady away from her. They had just dropped her 6-year-old daughter off at school, the same school my daughter goes to, and then she has another daughter there that she was trying to take to her school. And the daughter, again, was super hysterical. She could not regain composure. She was just scared because she knew what might happen here in a few minutes. And the mom, who had been in the accident, she kept telling the daughter, it's going to be okay, stop crying, it's going to be okay. She kept saying over and over again, we trust in God, we trust in God, we trust in God. At one point, I pulled the mom aside and I said, okay, so don't take this as legal advice, because this might be really bad advice. I said, but would you consider just walking away, leaving your truck here? And the reason they couldn't drive the truck is it had one of the tires had blown out, so it was kind of stuck there. And I said, yeah, I said, does any part of you want to just walk away and leave the truck? The license, the story she gave me was that her nephew had given them the truck recently, and so the plates weren't changed over. And again, if you're an undocumented immigrant, it's hard for you to get any of that done because you don't have the right papers to prove that you're a citizen here. And so she could not, she could not prove that that vehicle was hers. The police wouldn't be able to prove that it was hers. So I said, would you consider just walking away? Like, I'm afraid for you. Would you consider just like leaving the truck, and they'll impound it and do whatever with it, but at least you get to go home to your daughters tonight and the rest of your family? And she said, yeah, like I might do that. And so we were talking about that, and I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I don't know if that's a good suggestion that I'm giving you, or if that's good advice, but there you have it. And while we were in the middle of that discussion, the cop, after like 45 minutes or an hour of waiting, finally pulled up. So I was like, oh shit, okay, here we go. So I turned my camera phone on just to document anything that might happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. The cop pulled up. He came out and talked to first the other girl that was at fault. She told him it was my fault. I pulled out too far. And then he came and talked to the Hispanic woman, and I translated. He said, where are your license, registration, insurance, all that. She handed him some sort of ID. It wasn't a license, obviously. I told you she didn't have a license, but it was some sort of ID, picture ID. And so he looked at it for a while, and then he said, where's your registration, all of that. And she didn't have registration or insurance. So he, you could tell his wheels were turning. He was thinking, he was contemplating. Finally, he said, okay, give me a few minutes. I'm gonna go back to the car. And so this whole time I'm thinking he is calling for backup or ICE or whatever. And it was really scary. Like I was really praying a lot. I pray, I love to pray. I believe it works. And so I'm sitting there praying. He gets out of the car, goes to the girl first who caused the accident, and he said, okay, here's your case number. Just take this to your insurance company. They'll get the claim going. And then he walked over to the other girl. So she prepared to go. The other girl prepared to go. He walked up to the Hispanic woman. And again, he didn't say anything at first. His wheels kept turning. So I kind of butt in, just to kind of like, I don't know what he was thinking. So, I think it was a good decision at this point, but I still don't know. I butted in and said, hey, I'd like to get started on changing this tire. Can I pull the truck around the corner so we're off this main road, blocking traffic? And so he said, yeah, you can do that. And so I hopped in this lady, I asked her for the keys, hopped in the truck, pulled it around the corner super slowly, and started to change the tire to the spare tire. So now I'm around the corner, I'm 100 feet away from them, and they keep talking. So I keep praying, I'm jacking up the truck. It was a big like F-250. Start jacking up the truck, and I'm just praying and praying and praying. And all of a sudden, it was at this point, she had called two of her friends, and they came to help as well. And so there were the three ladies and the daughter. They came around the corner, and obviously they weren't being detained or anything. So I was happy at that point, even though I didn't know like what the situation was. And so they came over and said, you would not believe what just happened. Like, not only did he ignore the fact that I didn't have any papers, that I was undocumented, but he said, you look like you're a mother just taking their kids to school. You don't look like you're dangerous. Why don't you get back to your day? And he gave her basically a verbal warning to go try to get her license and insurance and all of that stuff. So I was so happy. We high-fived, we exchanged smiles and words. And then I kept changing the tire. And the issue here was that it's a big F-250, and the only jack we had was this tiny one that you kind of have for like a four-door like Civic or something, super tiny. One of those ones that you hope to never have to use. But so I'm jacking up the truck. It's really hard. And then all of a sudden, this AAA van pulls up, and I didn't call AAA. Honestly, with all the kind of emotions that were going on, I didn't think to call AAA actually. But he pulls up, and I said, "Did somebody call you?" And he said, "No." He said, "I actually passed before, but I had to go change." This is kind of funny. He said, "I had to go change the tire of a Rolls Royce down the road." So then he said, "I was finished." And so I didn't have another call, so I came back to help you guys. So he gets his obviously heavy-duty jack out, jacks the truck up, helps me take the tire off, puts the new one on. He does everything. He puts the new one on, and then I was telling her in Spanish, you're gonna have to go get air in the tires. because yeah, this one is the spare, and it's been on there for a while, so it's not going to have air. And it was low. It wasn't like flat, but it was low. So she says, cool. And then the guy already was pulling his truck around to back it up so he could put air in it. So this guy did everything. And here's one of the things that stuck out to me at this point. Right in the back, I don't know this guy. I don't know this guy from Adam. I may never see him again. I did ask for his card, and so I could call his boss and, you know, really recommend him for what it's worth, and to tell him that he did a great job, and that he was just a wonderful neighbor in that moment. But what was interesting is I live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is partly problematic for me because it's hard to be here sometimes with some of the things that I see politically and societally that I just don't agree with. So in the back of right behind the seats in this truck is a big rebel flag. And I had to kind of lower my voice there because I'm sitting on my front stoop, and my neighbors right over there have a rebel flag. So this is Nashville. So he has a rebel flag right behind the seats, and he pulls up on this situation that, yeah, there's an undocumented immigrant family here that needed a good deed happen to them, and he did it. And what was also, so that was blowing my mind, that this person that I sometimes demonize was here as the rescuer in the situation, here as the good neighbor helping us out, not asking questions about who this woman was and if she belonged here. He just pulled up pulled up in his truck, and he just does his thing and does it without questioning. He just did his thing like I expect and think that every decent human should, and it was just amazing. And then even with the cop thing, you know, like if you follow me on social media or know me in real life, like I've got serious issues with the ways in which so many police in the U.S. conduct themselves. I mean, there's video after video after video, and it's honestly very easy to begin to demonize and to dislike the police because it doesn't seem like they're even trying. There's videos day after day. And so then this guy shows up, a guy that I am not scared of him as a person, but I'm scared of what he has the power to do. And he pulls up, spends 30 minutes with us, and leaves with a verbal warning, not for her undocumented immigrant status, but because of her, she didn't have a license or registration or insurance. None of that. I mean, she could have easily been detained on any of those things, and he let her go. And so this whole situation, again, if you follow me online, you know that sometimes I can be sort of a dick, and I try not to be, but I get very passionate about these things, especially when it involves people, marginalized peoples especially. I get very passionate, and I want to help and intervene, and I don't like power being abused, and I've seen it abused way too often. And so here's a situation that could have gone super poorly, and it went super wonderfully. We hugged each other afterward. We exchanged, I got a picture of them so I could remember them. We did, subconsciously, Becky asked me later when I got home, she said, did you get their names? And I said, no, I was trying to I didn't want to have any kind of paper trail of this instance in case something were to happen later and they were to trace that situation back to me, and then they would find them. I don't know what I was thinking, but sorry, that's speaking of Nashville, a humongous pickup truck jacked up with like a 5-inch lift. I don't know what I was thinking. It was very much a frantic hour and a half, 2 hours. And then she's like, but you got a picture with them. But anyway, so I don't know their names. I don't know that I'll ever see them again. Although I do know they live right around the corner somewhere on this long main road called Robertson. I just know that I'm more and more convinced each and every day. Here's the point. Here's the kind of moral of the story, and then I'll wrap it up. I know, and I'm more and more convinced, that we need to meet at the physical or metaphorical table with people we don't agree with, right? And I think more times than not, we need to figure out how to meet at a physical table, around a meal, around drinks, around coffee, with people that we don't like, people that we demonize, people that we might even hate, people that we think are they live completely opposite lives to what we lead. We need to spend time with them. We need to, because we are going to find common ground. We are going to find things that we agree on. And these are very normal people. These are people that love their families, that love their jobs, that want to do right in the world. They want to do good in the world. They want to be good citizens. And at the end of the day, we want the same things. We want healthy families. We want freedom. We want security. We want safety. We want prosperity. And they're just seeing it from, through a different lens than I am sometimes. But we've got to get to the table. We have to stop demonizing each other. We have to stop bitching and moaning on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We've got to stop acting like these people are less than us, are less than. And we need to have conversations around the table. And so I want to encourage you with this story. I want to encourage you because it could have gone so poorly, and I thought it was going to. I was scared shitless that I was going to be in the middle of something, a situation where I may have had to make a big decision, one that might harm me or someone else or my family. And I didn't want any of that to happen. I wanted this to resolve peacefully, and I wanted this lady to go home to her family so she can continue living and working and prospering and trying to get citizenship here. And so that's the moral of the story. I love you guys. I love all of you, even those that I don't agree with on political things or societal things or even religious views or whatever. Like, that's gonna happen. We can't let that stop us from gathering around a table to talk, to hug, to hang out with each other, to love each other, to prod each other toward successful lives and prosperous lives. And then lastly, be available, right? I could have easily, and this is not a pat on my back because this is what all of us should be doing, but be available, friends. I could have easily said, I had so much to do yesterday. I could have easily said, I've got meetings to go to, I've got work to get done, I had to get ready for the new, this week's podcast that released this morning. I had to do a bunch of stuff, and I stopped for 2 hours. It was 2 measly hours in light of, the entirety of my life. Such an easy contribution. But so many of us forsake being available because we've got so much shit to do. And I want to encourage you. My phrase is, let's give a damn. Bob Goff's phrase is, he always talks about how the only thing on his agenda is to be available, is availability. And so let's do that for people. Let's try today as you're watching this video, or tomorrow or next week when you see something wrong, do something about it. Don't talk about it, don't think about it, do something about it. I love you all, be encouraged. Bye for now.